Would look over the minutes from last week, and if those are suitable, entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are adopted. All right, Ms. Standridge, how about sitting right there where I can keep my eye on you, please? At the
How
end.
about I just come to the podium just in case the microphone is here?
If you
so
want
then-
to, but the
So
only
then,
reason.
yes, let's just do
The
it.
reason I want to keep my eye on you is because this is going to be very confusing, and I just want kind of head nods or shakes as we're moving through it.
How long we been in session? 2 minutes.
2 seconds? Right.
Okay. Under old business, item number 1, approval of FY '23 general fund budget. Hang on one sec. My version with all my notes on it.
Oh, all right.
Okay, item number 1, approval of '23 general fund budget. There are submitted changes to that we'll entertain during the latter course of the meeting, so I'm going to propose that be withdrawn. Is there a second?
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2, and by the way, these withdrawals, they're going to reappear in a few minutes with the proposed revision. Item number 2, approval of FY 2023 water and sewer fund budget. My memory is there's no proposed revisions to
No
that.
proposed revisions.
Okay, is there a motion to approve or any questions? Water and sewer fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, 2023 water and sewer fund budget is approved. Item number 3, approval of FY '23 Elevate Tuscaloosa fund budget. That likewise has a proposed revision that's been submitted, so I'm going to make a motion that is withdrawn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So FY '23 Elevate Tuscaloosa fund budget is withdrawn and will be considered later in the meeting. Item number 4, approval of FY '23 general fund reserve for future improvements fund budget. Same issue here. There is a proposed revision that was submitted for consideration. I'm going to propose that item number 4 be withdrawn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 5, FY '23 water and sewer reserve for future improvements fund budget. I don't think there were any submitted revisions to
No-
that,
No
correct?
submitted revisions.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. 23, water and sewer reserve for future improvement fund budget is approved. Item number 6, authorization of agency funding contract for calendar year 2023. Same process here. There is a submitted revision to be considered later in the meeting. I'll propose item number 6 be withdrawn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Item number 7, suspension of pay plan step raises for fiscal year 2023. Ms. Standridge, you now get to talk.
Yes, sir, thank you. So one of the points to clear here is just to make the entire council aware that within city code, there are really 2 separate pay plans. We have the non-sworn employee pay plan, so that covers, me and administrative staff and anybody that's not a sworn police officer or a firefighter. So even admin employees within the police department and the fire department, those admin employees that are there. Within that non-sworn pay plan, codified, there is an automatic COLA that is applied. That's a stated rate by the Department of Labor, and then there are 2 step increases. That is what's automatic through the pay plan. What is proposed in the budget is the COLA of 2.6% that we've talked about, plus 1 step. So we are proposing that the second step for the non-sworn employees be suspended.
Carly, we have to do this every year
Yeah.
in the council.
Yep.
Because if we don't act, then it's 2.
If we don't add it, it's automatically 1 and 2.
Yes, sir, that's
Right.
correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
And this is what was presented to it. I know it seems a long time ago now, but in the initial presentation. This is what was presented to us,
Yes, sir.
what has that been, 4 or 5 weeks ago?
Mr. Chair, I've had a lot of contact from city employees that are really confused about this. I think it's very clear
So have I.
from what Ms. Standridge said. I think it's very clear. I just hope if any of them are watching, they understand that they will get one step in.
And the COLA, yes, sir. And that's the one reason why I did want to I wanted to go, there's twofold to this point to go over, but that was one, was just to clear up any confusion that could possibly have been brewing over the last couple of weeks. I have heard the same.
Yeah, people see suspension of step raises in the title there, and the tendency is to set your hair on fire immediately. But this is an annual process, and sometimes it's this way, sometimes it's that way.
And Mr. Chair, as you talked about, when people talk about the suspension of their raises, especially those like the garbage workers or, people who are not making big salaries, their concerns are, will this raise be beneficial to them, especially when their insurance has gone up as well. So I've heard, and I know several of you have heard the needs of your constituents and residents and personnel that work here about this suspension of one step raise.
And yes, absolutely, and we're very well aware of that from an administrative standpoint. I do think that the mayor covered that within his budgetary presentation, that even the person that is making the lowest step in the lowest grade that we possibly pay out will still get a decent increase in their total gross pay,
Gotcha.
even with the health insurance increase.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a motion?
Oh, so I'm sorry. There's twofold to this point. The secondary point is going to be about the fire and police pay plan.
Okay.
Would you like
Oh,
to
okay.
go over
Yeah,
that specific item? So one of the issues when we implemented the fire and police pay plan, if you'll remember last year, the public safety pay plan is basically the automatic one step. Their one step is 2.5%, which is a little bit higher than the non-sworn steps are. So that's why they only are requesting, or when we were negotiating through their pay plan, they only requested to have one step every year, but for that to be an automatic step no matter what. The COLA is not applied to the police and fire pay plan. However, when we were creating and drafting the implementation for the police and fire pay plan, there were, as with any new plan implementation, there were a couple of hiccups and a couple of review point misses that happened. And I can tell you that there were a number of police and fire sworn individuals that, because of a certain timing aspect, were not given one of their years of service for steps last year. And so we've gone through all of the listings and we've calculated the individuals that scenario covers. It's not everybody. There's a total of about 517 people within the public safety pay plan. About 209 people is who we're talking about that have possibly missed this one step within this time frame that we've looked at. So we've costed out how much it would be for that 209 to get the extra step in this upcoming budget. That would be about $323,000, $323,425 and 71 cents to be exact.
Will you repeat that number again?
Yes, sir. $323,425 and 71 cents.
Was it based on their hire date?
So, yes, sir, it was based on so their anniversary date is when they get their step raise.
Right.
And when we drafted all of the implementation plans, there was a certain effective date that was listed that we just kind of missed in review that impacted the implementation more so than we thought it would. And so it's really that demarcation line that we missed and are trying to remedy with this update.
So the intention was to give them that raise in the first place?
Yes, sir.
So this brings everybody even, correct?
Yes, sir.
There were two ways to make it fair or even. One was to bring the others down to that level. The other one was to take the rest up, and that's what this is proposed.
And so to bring everybody up would be $323,000 for fiscal '23. However, also due to the fact that the pay plan has already been enacted starting the 1st of April of this year, to be able to also pay them what they should have made if the implementation had been appropriately done, That would be an additional $161,712.86 that we will pull out of fiscal 22's budget. There is,
The 161 is coming out of leftover pay for vacant positions. correct?
we have plenty
For
of vacancies
22.
and salary savings in fiscal 22 to be able to afford that 161 within the budget already.
And the 325 is part of this 23 budget.
Correct, that's what we're proposing.
Okay.
So what would that total be with that 161 and that 323 for? Do you have a number for us?
I will have it.
It's almost five.
Almost
485.
45. $500,000.
So Carly, when we vote on this, the other stuff is already being taken care of in the regular budget, right?
Yeah, that's
The
correct.
stuff you're talking about. We're suspending one of the two
Codified.
codified step raises every year.
For the non-sworn individuals, but we're
Non-sworn.
also correcting the plan for the sworn individuals. Mr. Wilson, that total is $485,138.57.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 7 is enacted. Item number 8, adoption of amendments to Code Section 19-42, Exhibit C related to COLA for 23.
So the COLA, this is basically setting COLA at 2.6% because we had already given the employees the 2.5% back in the beginning of April. If you'll recall that discussion that we had, we started around December wanting to award employees a little bit more just because of, cost of living increases that were coming, that suspension of the step raise that we talked about we did the last year. So we went ahead and, or the council went ahead and awarded the 2.5% COLA increase beginning of April. And because the full published cost of living increase for the southeastern region for this fiscal year was 5.1%. We took that 2.5 out already as like a pre-award, so we are setting the COLA at 2.6%.
We actually gave 2 COLAs last year, correct? Wasn't it one in January and then?
Well, one in October. Yes,
October, I
sir.
meant.
And then this one that's like the pre-award that we're kind of taking out of this.
When inflation began to spike, we basically pre-packaged half of it,
Right,
and then knowing the second part would come in this.
yeah. I thought that worked really well.
Okay, any other questions?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's see. Item number 9, adoption of amendments to city code related to water and sewer rates. Again, this was briefed to us by the mayor in our initial presentation. Any questions while we've got Ms. Standridge up at the podium? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, adoption, the amendments to city code are adopted. Item number 10, approval to amend code section 15-156 regarding solid waste collection and service charge from Standridge.
So this is the increase to the garbage rate. This is the $2 per month that was discussed and briefed during the mayor's
Also briefed during the, I think, the initial
Yes, sir.
budget presentation. Any questions?
Carly, I've had several people to call me about the increase. Can you just go over that a little bit?
Sure,
For the
so
public.
the $2 per month increase.
Yes, ma'am.
Will be for the garbage rate. So currently garbage collection rates are $3.25, and so this will bring them up to $5.25 for the first residential cart. The second residential cart is, I believe it's $23.25 right now, and so this will bring it up to $25.25.
Yes, ma'am.
What other questions can I answer for that?
I just wanted the public to know, because people have been calling me, asking me about why are we changing, and I talked about that we've been discussing this for a while.
Sure, so.
Yeah, and I think on
so-
the why, it's because the calculation of the cost of providing the
Yes,
service.
costs of providing the service have increased. I mean, you know, the, like you just mentioned, the raises that we give to
Right.
our environmental service department workers have increased over the years. The cost to buy just one garbage truck to replace an old one that is no longer functioning.
Yes, ma'am.
Those have gone up. Those just costs have just astronomically increased with the cost of everything else that's been going up.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions, or if not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 10 is approved. Item number 11, adoption of amendments to code section 2-46, renaming the amphitheater and river market reserve fund to the River District Reserve Fund. Any questions? Again, we've been briefed on this.
Move to accept.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 11 is approved. Item number 12, Finance Committee submitted changes to old business items for budget adoption. 12A, General Fund, add council budget 4,800 for car allowance from GF contingency. This is the item we discussed for the car allowance.
We have to vote on each one of these separately.
Can we take them as a group or separately?
So ultimately, it's up to you. You will vote on the implemented item within each
Within the-
next one, so I think you can do whatever.
Item number 12, Finance Committee submitted changes to old business items for budget adoption. Any questions?
Under B, you said count,
B, General
outside
Fund.
services,
Yeah.
is that 15,200?
That 15,200 brings it up to the 175 total that we've discussed and planned on.
Yes, sir.
So, for all of these revisions, you're all just gonna vote on them?
Yeah, these revisions, if passed, then will become part of what we vote on in those measures that we
13.
withdrew at the beginning
Gotcha.
of the meeting.
So we have, if we have members here from agencies that are a part of the revisions, do we want to hear anything from
If they
them?
would, if
Yeah.
if they would like to speak, we'll be glad to hear from them.
Well, we can go in order, but I do just want to say for for agenda item E, under number 12, we do have a representative from Habitat if there are any questions, but I would like to say that was for a project in my district, but I'm fine with following whatever's recommended in this agenda item so that we can have more time to discuss it. I know a lot about the project because it's in my district. I've had a lot of meetings about it, but I want to make sure that everyone else is briefed on it just as
Okay.
equally as I. But
I
if
think, I agree with you. We're not, this is just putting the money off in another bucket.
So I
We're
think,
not gonna say we're not gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, just for the record, we're discussing the general fund reserve for future improvements fund to remove the 500,000 and to transfer it into a contingency. And that's fine with me. Ms. Potts couldn't be here, but she did send a representative. And I would like to ask that we discuss this, the first week in October,
Okay.
if possible.
well, also, we have the Dr. Derry here from the school board, and Mr. Jay Dukes, and I think the athletic director. Is there anything that you all would like to say to us as we deliberate on the athletic fund?
Thank you. We just wanted to be available should there be any questions. We see that as a great thing, but just want to be available for any questions.
We appreciate it, Dr. Derry, and I have talked, I think all of us have talked at length with you and your board members, and I think the understanding is pretty clear that neither to this nor the Habitat is this a no, ain't gonna happen. This is not now, but let's get y'all back on the agenda like Ms. Howard just talked about for Habitat. Get the presentation and make a decision on it.
So are we asking, Mr. Chair, we're asking Dr. Derry and the school system to come back?
I would offer them that opportunity and encourage them to take us up on it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And the same thing, Kip, with tourism, right, we're.
Now, tourism,
No,
we're
okay, I'm
adding,
sorry.
tourism, we're adding
We're gonna
too.
vote on it. That's fine.
Right.
Sorry. Reading that wrong.
So wouldn't it be good for them to come and to also talk to us as well?
They're here.
They are, A, they're here,
Yeah, all right, Kelsey's here.
And B, I submitted it.
B,
Yeah.
they presented it in their original presentation, we gave them less. Mr. Tyner sponsored a written submission, on making up a part of that. So that's
Okay.
where the 85 came from. Does anybody have any questions of Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports? Okay. Any other questions on item A through F? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 12, the submitted changes to the budget adoption are approved. Item 13. Okay, so now this now takes those changes that we've approved that are located in the general fund budget and puts them in there for vote tonight. Do we have to vote on these since the changes are, okay. Item number 13, approval of Finance Committee proposed 23 general fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 14, approval of Finance Committee proposed 23 Elevate Tuscaloosa fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 15, approval of Finance Committee proposed 23 general fund reserve for future improvements fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 16, authorization of Finance Committee proposed agency funding contracts for calendar year 23.
This is based on the changes we just made.
Yeah, this is adding in the TTS change. It's item number, whatever it is up here at 12.
C.
C.
See,
So moved. Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved. Item number 17, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute funding agreement with Tuscaloosa County Road Improvement Commission for Mcwright's Ferry Road.
Yes, sir, this falls in line with what we discussed last week during the finance committee meeting. This will be another procedural step for us as we move forward with this project.
This executes our agreement with them to reimburse us for any funds raised on their behalf, correct?
That's correct.
Is there a motion or any other questions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 17 is approved. Number 18, general fund RFFI budget revision number 14, Ms. Standridge, and that is located
Thought
on
that that item was
page
gonna be a little bit longer,
31.
so I went and sat down. Yes, sir. So the general fund, the GF RFFI budget revision number 14, this is a request to be able to transfer money from the Elevate Fund and into the RFFI to create a camera storage escrow account. We have a camera storage escrow that we require all departments that are putting in new cameras to be able to save up money to possibly buy extra storage as we need it for when we have extra camera footage that we need to store for longer. The amount of data that takes up usually will require us to buy new storage arrays. And so this is just the savings account for whenever we put new cameras out there, we know that we're gonna have extra footage that we're gonna need to put somewhere within our storage array. We'll buy new storage arrays as they come out of this funding.
Any questions on camera storage? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 18 is approved. Item 19, water and sewer RFFI budget revision number 11.
If you will recall back in Projects Committee, which was so long ago, Mr. Brett Blackburn briefed you on the project that was the AlDOT's US Highway 11 Bridge Utility Conflict Project, and that was the amount that he said was fully reimbursable by the state. This is just recording that item, creating a revenue line item, and then increasing the project in kind for the same amount of $30,319.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number, what number was that?
20.
Item number 19 is approved. Item number 20, Para has requested to get on the agenda today. They have, I'll let them do most of the cheerleading, but they've scored a big hit with locating the Dixie Youth. Jay, what's the full title of the Dixie Youth World Series?
Yes, sir. It's the Dixie Youth World Series. Really big event.
It's a big deal. Para has come today for discussion only today to present us with what will be coming our way, I think, in terms of a future ask in order to get the facilities that are hosting that up to meet the standards that are required by the overseeing agency. So who's gonna brief for Para?
I am the director of the foundation. We're coming here just to clarify as the foundation today, not as Para, as an agency. So I am the director of development for the Para Foundation. I am Caroline Lassiter. Want to thank the mayor for having us a couple of weeks ago to discuss this special project. We're really excited. I want to thank tourism because they also are really involved in this as well. And Stan's done a really good job helping getting this recruited. So anyway, so I'm going to bring Jay up to talk more about the Dixie Youth because he's the chairman of the event. I am on the fundraising side of things. Last year we hosted, or I guess it wasn't last year, it was this year. We hosted the state tournament. And so that's kind of where I'm going to leave off and let Jay describe what this event does and how it's going to bring people to our community. And Jay?
All right, thank you, Caroline. Again, just a lot of thank you goes to the mayor's office. He met with us a couple of weeks ago just to give us some directional pathways to get to this point. But TTS also shares a lot of credit because, again, years ago, we were trying to, as a group, as a team locally, secure a really, really big event. Para, back in 2016, just give you a history of it, we were with another baseball league that was about to run its cycle for what we're trying to do. And we were challenged by the local community to bring in more tournaments from an internal Para standpoint. And at the time, TTS and their team saw the value in it as well. We partnered with Dixie Youth back in 2016. They provided a lot more structure. They provided some external opportunities for tournaments where you bring in external players and teams, and also keep your teams here locally. And from 2016 up until now, we've been able to build on that brand, not just in the city limits proper, but in the county respectively, but in areas where they're underserved. I'll give you a good example. In West Tuscaloosa, we've got a Dixie Youth program that's thriving. We partner with the Atlanta Braves at McDonald Houston. So that's 2 years in the making. So just by having TTS with us and Dixie Youth, we've been able to hold hands and gravitate towards some larger events. So fast forward to 2019, we had already secured state tournaments, and those are large within themselves. So there are about 40, 42 teams that come from all over the state, and they come to Tuscaloosa Bauer Sports Complex, and they play for the right to play in the World Series. And if some of you may remember, some of you still on the council knew, one of the challenges was to go get a World Series, so that's what we went and set out and done. 2019, COVID hit in 2020, obviously we didn't have any tournaments. 21, Para actually hosted the state tournament again, and again in 21, and then again in 22. We just hosted it. Matter of fact, TTS does a great job. They actually use some data. If you want to chime in, the data that they used, one of the larger sporting events where it had a really positive economic metric was our Dixie Youth Tournament back in 21, if I'm not mistaken. So the fact that you bring people to your facility, to your community, speaks on TTS and Para and Dixie Youth. The economic impact, what we did as a team, and Stan has actually got some apples to apples numbers, and he'll probably come back at a later date and engage the mayor and council with this, but the historical data of economic impact of Dixie Youth specifically, we looked at Lower Mississippi, we looked at Ruston, Louisiana, we looked at Lumberton, North Carolina. These communities have already hosted a World Series, and so they saw the value in communities working together, and they saw that when people gravitate to that ballpark, they're going to keep that dollar local, and that cyclical nature, really, you really felt it with the $2 to $4 million local economic impact. And so these are numbers that we pulled from their CVB over in Lumberton and then Laurel. And Laurel's a little bit different because if you've ever been to Laurel, 19,000 population. So a lot of their money went out when it came to lodging, but a lot of their ancillary services were used. So again, these were just 1 week tournaments. In Laurel, 1 week World Series. Laurel and Lumberton, 1 week. Ruston, 1 week. Tuscaloosa has got a 2 week tournament. So first week.
Why is it World Series not a why is it 1 week there and 2 weeks here?
They used to have it years ago where it was 2 weeks, but because of the travel requirements and just the headache, they cut it down to 1 week. But they saw that we had the ability and experience to run these state level tournaments, and so they expanded the World Series. Not because it's Tuscaloosa, but I like to think so.
Also, one's a Division I league, and then the second
And
week
one
is
is a
Division
Division
II
II.
league.
So you've got D1, 1 week, and D2, the second week consolidated
Okay.
into one World Series, so.
Yeah, don't let me sidetrack.
No, huge economic impact. So when we go to budgets, I'll let Mike Crady, our finance director, kind of go over those. And these are things that we've met with the mayor's office a couple Tuesdays ago in terms of the immediate tournament infrastructure needs that are prerequisites. So, Mike.
I apologize, I don't know what happened to
It's
my
probably
slide.
just formatting.
Okay.
Yeah, some,
Okay, so this is a list, I know it's hard to read, but is your
You
hand
have it, yeah.
Is the handwriting any better?
We can vote.
Oh, yeah.
So these are prerequisites for us to host the tournament. So these are all items that we need to qualify to be able to host the tournament. And that's what we're asking for y'all's help. If you'll notice, most of these items are connectivity items. And so we do anticipate there to be streaming and potentially be televised. So there's Wi-Fi upgrades, PA communications upgrades, and then we also have just some infield improvements and infrastructure upgrades to the park, as well as there's some required security and the operating cost of the Wi-Fi for Bowers Park. And so this specifically is what we would be asking you all for your help with at a later date. And then next slide.
my quick question
Yeah,
on
sure.
this right here. Why place that in the capital and not the operating? I understand
Well,
why you need it.
Why is
Just
what,
wanna get your
Mayor?
thought process on that.
Mayor, could you-
Yeah, the tournament security and law enforcement, why in the infrastructure needs and not in the operating?
Right. Well, there's about 60,000 in this total that are operational, so there's also the Wi-Fi monthly service.
Okay.
So these are just things we have to have the tournament. So it's not
So
strictly.
they're not
capital.
all infrastructure.
I'm sorry.
They're not all infrastructure.
Well, tournament infrastructure is what we're.
Okay.
Some of this would, like the Wi-Fi, would just have to be something we.
You gotta have that.
No, yeah,
That's why
I'm
we
not,
call it-
not quibbling, I'm just trying to figure out what Mr. Fail and Mr. Lanier are gonna get to keep when y'all are gone.
Well, that's what I'm getting, other than the temporary fencing, will everything else remain?
Yes, everything will leave behind. The Wi-Fi is a 5-year term, but we will obviously renew that if.
This will also make our fields tournament ready for future tournaments, not just for the World Series. So right now our fields are too big. There's not enough grass area. This is gonna bring in grass to bring the infields in so we can recruit more youth sports to Tuscaloosa than just Dixie Youth. Having the phone system, for instance, you know, some people won't come because there's no communication from the dugout to the press box. So now that we've got the communication, that'll attract more people to come to use our parks and to come tour Tuscaloosa and stay in our hotels and, you know, have a good economic impact for our community.
So big picture for the slower ones in the class. When is the 2 weeks?
It's August.
It will be July 27th through August the 2nd. That's the first week.
Of 23, check.
Mhm.
Okay,
And then the
and-
second week will be August 4th through the 10th.
Okay. And then what we should expect to see moving towards us is a total ask for what? Who's it coming from, para versus foundation, and what are the other players contributing?
Well, Mr. Busby, if I can jump in.
You may.
In meeting with them and what I told them I'd like to recommend to the council is that, and I'm going back to my notes that I emailed out to you guys a couple weeks ago. The city commits to doing the capital improvements at Bowers. That's listed up here. We'll need to work through some of the things that Mike said on the operating costs, but they sound like, you know, the Wi-Fi definitely something we'll wanna, I certainly wanna keep going. those improvements we can pay for through our tourism capital fund. We have a fund that's designed just for things like this. And these improvements, as Caroline said, will stay with Bowers Park, so it's more than just the one event. The community gets the benefit. Whatever those capital improvements cost, we would fund up to $235. We would determine that final amount with Para. We would need to get an agreed upon, we need to get an agreement about the type of security services and everything else. But that's something we may can do internally. Right now, we don't have any money budgeted. That would probably be something we would just come back in January or the next quarterly, April, and just amend an operating budget to increase overtime, whatever that may be. We would also suggest to the council that if we decide to participate in this way, and I hope we will, that the county participates as well.
And just so you know, we spoke with Judge Robertson last week, and so they have this information as well. They're and we're going to meet with them after budget's over in October to go over this, so they know that, you know, your money is pretty much contingent, you know, and they're excited about it too. I mean, this is great for our community. This is the stuff that we've wanted to do, and I know the city's wanted to do, so.
And then Caroline, what is the foundation putting?
So we're using, so the foundation was established back in the early 70s to fund special projects for Para. So as you know, you weren't here when we were doing the all-inclusive playground. I came, and so the money came to the foundation, and we built the all-inclusive playground. So this is a special project, infrastructure needs. So that's why our infrastructure tournament needs. So that's why it's going to the foundation. And it's also another checks and balances. We have our own board. Trip Howell's here right now. He's the president of our board, and he approves, you know, as a board, you know, if we're going to spend $25,000 today on fencing, it's got to be approved through us first. So it's just another layer of checks and balances for money too.
I'd love to stand up and speak into the back of the television, but I'll be seated instead and tell you that the vehicle of using the Para Foundation was established with the playground because it became a designated gift. It wasn't just an allocation to Para at large. It was, this is what we want to use. This is how it's allocated. There is a set aside for future maintenance as well. That's where that contingency is. So the Para Foundation vehicle was established 3 years ago. Is that right? And that's why this portion of the tournament is a Para Foundation ask.
Okay. Anything else anybody want to ask today?
It's just informational for the day.
Yeah, I think this is just getting our head in the game, right?
Right.
It's coming. Thank you for getting us oriented to it, so we can start thinking about what our questions will be, and then we'll get you on the schedule.
I just
Go
wanted
for
to
it.
say real quick, this last page,
Yeah.
you know, we have a budget of $387 for operational cost, but that is just if we have the Cadillac of all tournaments. If we only raise, as the foundation, the private sector, $150,000, that's all we have to spend on the tournament. So just so you know, we're not asking for that number. I just wanted y'all to be aware of, you know, if we put on the best fire tournament ever.
That's your skin in the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
What's your lead time on the capital improvements? I mean, everything right now on the supply chain is so slow.
So the inspection team with Dixie will come in May of '23. So you've got until May to get those things installed. So we know the supply chain issues. We know once you bid things out and things of that nature. So there's a lag time. So that's just a date that we know we have to hit when the national comes down to do the actual inspection of our sports complex. So.
Mr. Chairman, could we get this back up sometime in October?
We can. Early October's fine. We're gonna, Ms. Howard's got one coming. I'm imagining the school boards. So let's get across 1 October into the new fiscal year, and then we'll be open for business and take some time and look at these in detail in a decisional format.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Caroline,
Yeah.
I meant to ask you this. If the city, Walt's gonna propose to us the 232 or whatever that we are good for, then when you look at what you were talking about, the 387 is the operational budget, do you envision that the county would match our 232 and then you would raise the difference? You would raise that difference? Is
That's
that,
my vision, yes.
well, that's the hope, they'll, whatever, if we put up 232, that they would match, because I know we do that together a lot.
Right. That maybe should be a conversation that, you know, we all have together. I don't wanna say what they're gonna do or what they're not gonna do, but I've spoken to Judge Robertson. I haven't spoken to the commission members yet, but he wants it to be just as successful as the mayor does and y'all do, so. They like to do more in kind, I think. You know, maybe we can go back and forth and say, I don't know.
They've got the heavy equipment they use out there as well.
And I will say, what I heard from that conversation was an interest in contributing to the current needs, and kind of splitting some of that 235 ask. I didn't hear much of a desire to contribute to operation costs, which is where Para will come in. So keep in mind, that's two completely separate asks, is that 235 and the 387, where I heard interest in the county was helping on the 235.
And again, this may be something we.
That's my interpretation, we clarify
Yeah,
that.
and I know, and it's, but trust me, we all put the big asterisk on the conversation. Do you seem open to law enforcement and other?
He was very
Yes.
receptive today.
Very receptive.
Because
He
those
actually,
are,
he
Yeah.
really wants to do that.
He really wants to do that, yeah.
those costs can be 20 to 30,000 a weekend for
Right.
us.
Yep.
Right. We could split it that way.
He was very open to that, so.
One of the proposals from Para was to have one of the touch see feel events with mobile units, trucks, drones, so forth, and be able to kind of parlay that in.
We need to figure out what that
Creativity
sharing
is
mechanism is
paramount.
gonna be before we vote on it. I mean, where we all know that, to be clear, right? I guess that's, well, cross that bridge.
Normally, what we've done in the past is we pass something or they pass something and they do it with contingencies that one of us will be a partner. And that way it gives them the assurance to move forward while details get worked out. But, you know, I feel comfortable from a budgetary standpoint,
Yeah.
meeting the needs of the park itself. That is that's not a budgetary issue because the Tourism Capital Fund has a balance of 300.
350,000 by the end of this fiscal year.
So for us, that's just an easier parlay, but I understand the county's position. They may want to do some of that and not do the operating. We'll just have to figure that out.
All right, thank you. Thanks for coming in, Kara and
Thank
Foundation.
y'all for your time.
Chairperson, I have one question, and it doesn't have to be answered today, I
I'm
just
sorry,
want to
right?
state
Go
it.
ahead.
Okay, so if we went back to, agenda item 12, and this is for the Board of Education since they're here. So, and this might be a bad idea or a bad question, but, because I'm around the high school athletics more, I've had a lot of concerns, come to me about the high school athletic department, and I support the funding for the Athletic Excellence Fund, but I wanted to know if it would be better for us to just focus on the high school athletics, or we need to focus on both of them? Is that the way the funding is for all?
Yeah,
schools
let
in
me,
high school?
Could I ask that we defer that to the actual presentation?
Yes, and we can say that, I
But
just wanted it for the
But thanks for
record.
giving them a heads up.
Yes. I
That's
can
what's
wait
gonna
on
be
that
coming
answer.
down the
it
road.
includes, the funding includes middle school.
Okay, so when you guys come back, I just wanna know what the budgets are like if it's better just to focus on.
And Ms. Howard, we did get, Mr. Wilson had asked for that matrix that broke down how it would be allocated amongst the different level schools. All right, that concludes the items on the agenda today. Do
Yes,
any
sir.
committee members have any new business or additional items to bring up?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I would like to bring up, like to look back at the CNS additional funding request, and I'm going to pass out a document to the council, and I'm going to ask the Perry and Heather to come forth. I'm really concerned about their ask and their budgetary items that we have. So I really wanna look at that, and I wanna see how we could, look at their salary reimbursements and how we could use those salary reimbursements to fund their fund their department, as well as look at how we could do something for Tuscaloosa Emergency Services, for the homelessness, street outreach and investment, as well as Meals on Wheels for community service programs of West Alabama. And so, for the public that's listening, CNS services include the senior citizens, youth, education services, crime prevention, summer jobs, etc. Infrastructure projects, construction projects, economic development, administration, and housing activities. Their ask was for $117,450.52, which they have for 2022 budgeted a salary budgeted to reimburse the general fund $251,500, which, and they're going to return approximately more approximately more 50,000, which is going to bring that up to $302,305.45. So the pair, Heather, you all come. I want, the pair can't talk.
Yeah.
So Heather,
You can't talk.
his voice is hoarse. Looking at your reimbursements,
You trying
can
to make up for it with threads?
No. Heather, will you talk to me? Heather, will you talk to us about what are your current salary reimbursements for 2022?
So we're budgeted for $251,500. We're expecting an additional $50,000 to come on our current budget year. So that's for 2022. 2023, with that request, that would free up an additional $130,000 to add to the $251,500 because we have additional grants with those additional positions could pull down on that admin.
So that those additional grant monies, those additional positions will help you to be able to get additional grant monies that will bring, if you add the $251,000 plus the $130,000, that will be the total that you all will be reimbursing the general fund for. Okay, so can you give me the numbers of that? What would that add up to be? Y'all may be smarter than I am.
It would be about $381,000.
What would that be?
About $381,000.
So that's $381,000, and we subtract the $172,000 that you all are asking for. What would that leave for a salary reimbursement to us? And basically, I'm not good with math that much, but I do know that formula. And so if that's the case, if you have over 300,000 and you're being with.
So salary-wise, that would ask for $42,000 from general fund to assure the salaries.
So you all will need $42,450.52 from general fund, and that will fund the community service coordinator, grants compliant coordinator. Those two
Grant
positions.
compliance officer coordinator, and then internal promotion.
I also would like to look at that increase, Mr. Chair, for the Summer Jobs Youth Program. And I believe that we can find that money through your program. Right now it's budgeted at $100,000. And my ask is that it be $200,000, and that we take that $200,000 and have that for the Hope Summer Jobs Initiative. And I want us to be able to figure out a way to do that, as well as to reignite the neighborhood revitalization program, which funded and helped projects in District 1, 2, and 7, perhaps even in District 5, which was for $50,000. And I believe that this has been a pilot program, but I want, Mr. Chair, us to see about funding those and then looking at how we can take the revenue that is left and split those two revenues between CSP and TES. So could you all bring me bring those numbers to us in October so that we can look at that?
Yes, sir.
Okay?
So we're talking about moving some things around, if I understand this, from the budget.
That they already
We're
have.
going to pass.
Yes, sir.
Right now.
Is this like some of the other things, is this getting our head in the game of what's coming? Or is this, are you proposing a motion right now?
I want to propose a motion right now that we would put this in our budget and move forward with it.
Okay,
And if
and how much is, like, what are you asking in total?
so I'm asking for the two positions that are, they need from us $42,450.52. They also are requesting that general fund request of $50,000 for the neighborhood revitalization program, and also to add that $100,000 for the summer jobs for the youth program. And let me say this: the summer jobs program, I've seen it work a lot. The Hope Initiative jobs was to help those kids who were in underserved communities. And I truly believe that that's an investment worthwhile for us as a city to continue to do. You know.
That takes place at the.
Where's the money coming?
Right.
Is the money, are you proposing taking money away from
So-
something else for this? I'm for
Okay.
it, but where's the money coming?
So that money will come from their salary reimbursements.
$400,000?
Their salary reimbursements is $251,000. Their
Can
salary.
I do want to make a point.
Okay.
I think this is being described as it's not going to be a general fund cost. This year, in the proposed budget, they have a salaries and benefits of $892,000, $27,000 in wages and overtime, another $38,903 in other operating expenses. When you subtract out the $251,500 that we have in cost reimbursement from the federal government, the general fund still picks up, as of today, for a federal program, $707,218. And Mr. Chairman, I do want to say one thing. We spent months preparing a budget recommendation. We have spent 4 weeks in this room. And now proposals are getting tabled or moved off to the left and right or being brought to the table. And some of the things that are being proposed, we have no advanced knowledge of, we're not prepared for, and we would just ask the same courtesy that we have provided to the city council. Because it's not as simple, because what will happen if you approve this, and you're gonna ask me to come back and find the money, and that means then I'm gonna be forced to take from someone else, which is fine, but it's not fair to our team and to myself. I wouldn't do this to you. But I will leave it at that, because we need to pass a budget and move forward. For example, the Athletic Excellence Fund. You were first notified of that in late July. We met with the Board of Education. You've seen several different presentations on that, different documents. And now it's being moved to October, which is fair. But we're about to move forward with a proposal that hasn't been vetted. You don't know the federal requirements. You don't know if you're gonna have to keep, what happens if that person goes away? Does that become a fully general fund position? I would ask, if we're gonna put the brakes on, then let's treat all these issues the same. It may be meritorious, but I can promise you, and please know, Mr. Wilson, I would say this with anyone. There's about 200+ meritorious unfunded needs in the budget today.
Let me ask this question to Heather. How long has you all asked for this? How long has this need been? How long has this need been? Because on your document it says, please be advised that this request has been put off for several city budget years, which is critical to meet our requirement with our funding agency, HUD, and it's a possibility if these requirements are not met that we might not get other grant funding. Is that correct?
So it's been a few years. There are some grants that we have to meet some requirements for, and we are understaffed for that.
So if we're gonna get the money, we got to have the staffing.
This, again, I think, I stay in a state of confusion. But if we pass the budget as presented, these items that are in here could be considered at the meeting in October when we true all this stuff up.
Yes.
Because this is in the budget. I mean, these things could be shuffled around in the budget, right? So I
Yes.
mean, we could, I don't know if we need to pass something, but we could consider this stuff as a group, the same way we're gonna do these other things.
Yeah.
Could we not in October?
We could.
Then is that, I would like to make a motion to do that.
Second.
I'm just curious.
Well, when we have this meeting, I don't know how you call it, we would pass the CNS budget, again, am I right? That this would be a changing of that budget
Mm-hmm.
if we wanted to do this,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
Correct?
If you change that budget though, you've gotta change the contingency line. Because if you're gonna add the positions, then that lowers the contingency that comes out of the general fund.
I got you, but that would, if we wanna consider this, there's no way we can consider this right now. I mean, if you wanted to give this a fair hearing and talk about this, can we not just do that in, I guess we'll do that in October?
I would ask that this be held to the same standard that you've held the other projects
Sure, agree.
Okay.
to that.
I agree.
But if you put this into the budget, then I will be forced by ordinance to implement it. So we'll begin hiring a person, we'll have to begin to go through, we'll have to do exactly as you pass in that budget.
But if we pass the budget we pass the budget wall, and then we come back and look at this in October, if we amend it, then we gotta deal with all this stuff you're talking about with this. And I'm just saying, if we considered any part of this, we'd have to amend the budget, and then we'd have to know consequences, correct? We'd have that discussion back and forth about what would happen.
You're the council, whether you approve it or not is your choice. I would ask that this be vetted more before we.
Well, that's basically what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying, I may not be saying it very articulate, but what I'm saying is if we pass the CNS budget the way it is right now, that we've already looked at and been proposed, in October, we come back and look at this and see what has merit, what doesn't, and we have that discussion with the council, decide if we want to fund or move money around and then see what the consequences are of that.
Well,
To
I'm
your
not
point,
on
right?
your committee, but I think that makes more sense. I think
Okay,
it's
I can deal with
right here
that.
at the end of it to make a snap
I
decision.
agree.
It's not-
It's a lot to digest.
Well, that you can't, we can't
Not
have
that I'm
that,
not
we
for
can't
it.
have that vetted today. I mean, that's not gonna,
No,
that won't.
So
I
that
mean,
doesn't,
Carly,
that doesn't
October,
require
but I
action
don't think you can
today.
tell me all that
Okay,
right now, can
think
you?
about it.
So in October, we have our opportunity to do what?
Have another
Well,
budget year?
I tell you,
Because I don't wanna just look at it, I wanna do something about it too. Let's
Yeah,
stop
think we
looking,
all-
No, that we,
looking long
we,
enough, let's do something.
we review this
Council in here,
and
the thing
decide
about,
what to do.
let me just say this, the thing about it is, and I agree with the mayor, we've had months and months to prepare this budget, and to have something last minute is just not the right way to do it. Like you and I are working on a project in your district that we will completely vet in October, and like I said, so I think this should be done the same way.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
So let me ask this question.
Table.
And I don't have a problem with coming back to look at it, and then bringing it before the full council. I wonder if I look in the budget book, would I see the same needs since I've been on the council? Now, if that is correct, Mr. Chair, then that means that we have had time to look at it because we've had the information in the book.
But you didn't
Ra-
bring it
ra-
to us
ra-
just
rather-
now, though.
Rather than,
You just
rather
brought
than,
this today.
but it is, but if it was in that book, that means that it has been, that we all have had the opportunity, whether we did or did not do, to have the opportunity to vet it and look at it.
But again, you didn't do that. You just brought it to us 10 weeks ago.
So back in October,
Look at
So,
it again.
in
in October,
October,
just like we
Yeah.
did
I
the
don't
money
even know how
for the high school, which I thought we should have passed ASAP, but,
I do too,
I mean, I don't know why we waiting to do that, but
but not
that's
just for the
correct.
high schools.
Well, I think, one thing too that.
I can tell you why.
Why?
Because it was presented in a forum that's not the correct forum for considering this. That was
I
the
mean,
school board and the city council getting together for what was advertised as a kind of get together and swap ideas, and we did that. And that's where it came up, and I'm completely open to it, but I'm not open to doing it that way.
I mean,
I am a little bit
it's-
lost, and I don't know if that's a function of my brain
yeah,
or
cause
the
it
time.
taking
We're
all of
saying-
us to kind of figure out what we wanna do when it comes to that though.
Is there a motion regarding this?
yes, well, I
You
mean,
feel,
I
I'm
mean,
just
a
saying, I know you wanna.
He had a motion and a second on the
Get that
floor.
out.
But whatever-
I thought all us
Damn it, hang on.
No, you can.
Yeah,
bang that,
no,
you can
this is
throw that
my
down.
committee, and you can hang
No,
on.
this the Tuscaloosa City Council
This
committee.
is, and I
you don't
chair
run
it, and
nothing.
you're not on it,
It
and
don't
you'll
matter.
wait
I'm on the
till
city
you're
council.
recognized
Listen,
to
first of
speak
all,
in this meeting.
No, I'm recognized right now. I recognize myself.
Recognize yourself, but you won't
because
be
what you
recognized
won't
to
do
talk.
is
I'm
you
running
talk
this
to me
meeting.
like you talk to anybody else.
Is
out
there
here.
a
I'm not-
motion to adjourn?
Yeah, you won't do
I
that.
did have another question.
Yes.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But all I'm saying is, hold up, Norman.
yeah.
All I'm saying is, the entire council is to consider what's on the table. Now, we bring some up from the school board. That's important to me, and important to our community and the growth of Tuscaloosa City schools. So just because you don't like the way it was presented, doesn't mean it's not a good idea. You know, immediate.
It's not a
That's all
function
I'm
of
saying.
whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
That's not the way it's done.
Well, but that's how it was presented. You don't like the way it was presented, and so you had an issue with it. And so,
Mr. Lanier,
We need-
it's not a matter of whether I like it. That's not how we legally do things.
that's fine. Just
Cassius, when that gets brought up and we have that discussion, whatever happens in the committee, I mean, I believe it'll be approved, but if it's not approved, it comes to the council and it will be voted on. Probably most all of this will be worked out.
Right.
We'll work
Yeah,
this
I'm good
out,
with all
and
that.
everybody will have a discussion.
I believe we'll
about
work it out.
I'm good with all
what
that.
needs-
Long
what
as
needs
we-
to happen.
We don't know the consequences. If I can make
Yeah.
a couple of quick points, and
You might-
I don't know if Mr. Tyner will agree or disagree. Experience is probably the best teacher. The school board meeting the school board meeting we had before last, that topic was discussed and that we would come up with some ideas and bring them back to the table. So that was an idea to bring back to the table.
That's cool.
But in this budget process, council members have had questions about different things, and Mr. Tyner and I, we talk most Friday evenings as kind of our pattern. And we can't do anything about this year's budget, because that ship is sailed for the most part. But there appears to be, which is not really a bad thing if you think about it, out of 1 million things we have in our budget, literally thousands of things, there's about, a dozen items that council members have questions or want more information, etc. It may be in our budget process next year, we can set up a vehicle where after the budget is formally presented, the council says, okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, we want to move these things to a special calendar to be discussed, and then we take the rest of it as a whole. Because I think that's where you're going anyway.
That's functionally what we just did.
Yeah, and maybe if we did that earlier in the process, then that allows more research and in-depth analysis and those extra level of questions you want answered understandably, so we can provide that as much as possible. That's just food for thought, so that we don't get to this end, this moment of climax, and then everyone still feels like they're stranded.
And Walt, I would say too, if there's any way that we can work with administration to get this a little bit earlier, just a little bit more time. I mean, we look through this and then see, to your point, there is so much we all agree upon, and the things that are there if we have it presented and then we have a week to come back with our concerns, we can move on with, I don't know that we can vote on certain things or vote on it all together, but move on to other issues. I personally think, this is just me, we need a couple more weeks to get through this, not to derail things, but there is a lot of moving parts in all of this stuff, and I don't know, I think in everybody's life, it just seems like this last week's been kind of crazy, that everything's kind of blown up at once, and you're right, this is a rounding error. It's important to everybody in this room, but this is not 50% of the budget. You know, most of it, we're all in agreement on. That's
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
that's the issue
By
to
city
me.
ordinance, I have to present my budget by the last day of August, and then I can actually petition in writing for more time for the council.
But we could change that if we wanted to, though.
You could.
Yeah.
Procedurally, we begin our budget process right after audit. So we switch in March from audit to, we go into budget. It's about an 8-week period, and I'm going off memory here with departments, where departments have to go through this intense budget process. That ends up in A&F in May. By the middle to end of May, then I start becoming involved. And then I have about 6 to 8 weeks. And so we get done normally about the first week of August. But then my budget has to be fact-checked all the way through. I mean, so that when we present it to you, we've minimized any issues into it. I could give you another 7 to 10 days, I think, theoretically. This year, we presented our budget on the 25th. I think we could set an internal goal by the 15th, knowing there might be some caveats. The other thing we like to have is enough revenue collections to be able to come to you and say, we think this is gonna be a revenue picture.
So if I could
Yeah.
comment, we're not gonna reinvent that here and what's left. There are better ways we can do it, and we'll work with you intermediately. I'm a little confused on what's on the table and not on the table.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
What,
Did you ha-
made the motion that we would bring this back in October to let them present
Okay.
this to us. You had a motion and a second on that.
All right, so the motion is, Mr. Crowe, it's your motion. Would you repeat it, please?
To revisit it in
Yeah,
October.
Seeing
We
this-
would like to revisit this proposal and that in October, when we look at these other things to come to an agreement. I don't know, is that the right way to say that?
And I second it.
Make that motion.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Chairman.
opposed, yes.
Can I say one thing? Cassius and I had a meeting earlier, and he knows I've already, and I implore all the councilmen not to do it because I did it. I've already got some things I want a year from now. The one thing I was telling you about. So I implore every council person to not let this, no more Christmas things. You got a whole year. You know the budget's coming. So prepare now. That's what I'd say.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.